And welcome everybody to Executive Summit. My name is Chris Caputo, and today we have Christine Loneman. How are you?
I'm good, thanks,
Welcome.
Chris. Thank you.
Glad you're here today. So, Christine Loneman grew up in her family business as a child in her grandparents' Western wear store, where she learned the value of hard work and customer service. Those attributes served her well into her young adult years as she studied hospitality management at the University of Missouri, and then went to work for her parents in their event business at Benjamin Ranch. There, she worked side by side with her parents from November to August as their events coordinator, and then August through October, she would work at their family farm where she grew up and started and ran the family seasonal pumpkin patch. During this time, Christine was not only growing the pumpkin business, but her own family too. She describes herself as a proud wife, mama of two, and a passionate entrepreneur. And today, she's partners with her father, Bob Faulkner, and her brother, Matt, at Faulkner's Ranch event venue. This marks the 10th year at their current location and the 20th pumpkin season they have produced. That is awesome.
That's
Glad you're
right.
here today.
Thank you.
All right, great. So tell us, I want to start a little bit back with Grandma and Grandpa back in the Western wear store. Tell us a little bit about that. What that was like growing up at a wear store. It was just share with our audience a little bit some of that background there.
Well, most Saturdays and during the summers, my brother and I would witness the Western wear store in full swing.
Right.
All of the family members were there doing their jobs, and their customers would come in. I even remember George Brett would come in and buy his cowboy boots, and I would always make sure I was seated in the boot department right next to him when he was trying those on.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that was very special. My grandmother always had somebody up front on a stool elevated, because she would measure them for their custom chaps or square dance apparel or exciting Western wear, and I think she just made everyone feel really special.
Sure.
You could find my father back in the hat department, custom shaping and fitting cowboy hats over a hat steamer, kind of putting on a little show. They called him the hat doctor.
Okay, you're gonna have to forgive me. A hat steamer. I'm from East Coast. I grew up. What is a hat steamer? Help me understand what that is.
It's a big box.
Okay.
With water and steam.
Okay.
And
this is good.
The hats were made out of, help me out there, Bob, but felt materials, and you to bend them and shape them to fit.
So it's like a sophisticated iron for the hats, would you say?
Somewhat steam rolling out, and he's holding the hat in the steam and shaping the different parts of the hat over the steam.
Awesome. Okay, that one was for me. Okay, so back to you. Sorry about that.
I was really little back then, and I haven't seen the hat steamer since.
So when we were talking back there, you said your grandmother and grandfather. Tell the story about when people would come over, because things were literally busting out of the seams with how they were serving people. Tell that story a little bit.
Okay, so how they started the Western wear store, how it became. My grandmother was a school teacher, and my grandfather worked for the electric company. After hard days of work, he would come home, and my grandmother would have women inside her home and fitting them for shoes, square dance shoes. There was no place to buy them back then. So I think he quickly realized that she needed a place to sell the shoes other than the living room, and so there they set up a store and started selling all kinds of square dance attire, and then that blossomed and bloomed into Western wear, tack, saddlery.
Wow.
And those types of things.
Wow. I thought it was funny how he came in and he was tired. He had a long day at the office, and there's all this.
The story goes,
women's
he just
Western
wanted
apparel
to nap.
Everywhere.
Yes, he just wanted to take a nap, and that's when.
So he decided to buy a business.
Sure.
In order to take a nap, he had to buy a business. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were square dance collars. So.
Okay, and they did that on their spare
On the
time,
side.
right? And they just love people with their passion, serve them, and all of a sudden, entrepreneurial venture came from that. Interesting.
Yep.
So you're a little girl, and you're going to the store, and what was that like for you?
It was fun.
Yeah.
I remember the way it smelled when you walked in. There were just, I think we had the biggest boot department at that time in Kansas City. So, and then the leather from the tack and the saddles. So I remember the way it smelled, and it was gorgeous to me. They had mannequins, and we would dress them, and you know, just the things that they sold were very pretty, very artisan. And then I remember stamping out our names in leather in the back workshop on belts. I remember playing in the storage room, big boxes and multi-levels, and so we were kids still, but we were witnessing a lot of hard work and creativity.
So you knew, did you know as a little girl this is something you wanted to be a part of? Is this because you went to school to study for hospitality, correct? So
I did.
That was in your blood from a couple generations back, right? So then when did you realize this was something of a calling for you? How old were you around that time?
So so college probably.
Okay.
I knew I loved business, I loved marketing. The only choices back then were hospitality management, and it was hotels or restaurants. Those were the only event venues back then.
No ranch management programs
There
back then.
was no ranch management. I wanted to do off-site events. That's really what the Benjamin Ranch was. It was a great location. They would bring conventions from downtown Kansas City out to the Benjamin Ranch and throw huge barbecue for them with bands and barbecue and private rodeos and things of that nature. So it wasn't something that I could go tell my college advisor, I want to do that. There's no major or classes for it. So I went through their hospitality management program, and then one day my father, I was getting ready to graduate, or maybe it was my senior year, and he called up and he said, guess what I'm doing? And I said, what? And he said, I'm growing pumpkins. And I said, wow. Because to date on our 40 acres, we had not grown anything. We just had horses and boarded them there. And I knew that pumpkins would be a challenge for our family because in September and October at the Benjamin Ranch, that was historically the busiest time for corporate events and weddings. So I thought, how are my parents going to do that and this? And so he saw something there. They grew a ton of pumpkins that year, and I wasn't home, but they would put them up by the roadside, and people would drive by and put $5 in the mailbox and take a pumpkin. And so he saw something, and he called me up and said, you know, I think there's really something to this. If you would come home and create, you know, a pumpkin patch. I think people would come out and spend time and buy pumpkins from us. And so I did. That's what I did after school.
So your father was onto something. There was a hook, right? There was something of a, so even before we even went live, one of our studio members of the studio audience even said, "Oh, the pumpkin patch, that's right." And that's how people remember, right? That one little hook right there became a power alley of referrals, of getting the word out, even more so than the event venue itself, right?
It did. I look at it two ways, and what's cool about it is, you know, we had Benjamin Ranch over here, and that's where we were doing events and just fine-tuning our skills at that. And then over here we had our family farm, and that's where we were doing the pumpkin thing, and that's very seasonal, just the 30 days. And so what's neat is when the Benjamin Ranch went away and when we sold our family farm, we found this piece of property on Raytown Road, and it's situated right between the two. So it feels like it was just natural to land at our location where we are today.
Okay, let's talk about your mentors, your father and your grandparents and your mom as well. So what are some of the most powerful lessons they taught you, would you say, kind of, and we'll get into some of the other side of some of the challenges that were able to help be met as a result of the wisdom that you were able to receive. What were some of the important lessons that they taught you, and especially people that are watching this interview today? Thanks for joining us. If you were to share some of the things as people are beginning, even if they're into their entrepreneurial venture, because you've been doing this for a couple of years now, and what are some of the things to keep in mind, even if you're starting out or you're on the journey? What would you say? What have they taught you on this journey?
Well, show up every day, all day, and when you're there, give it your all.
Okay.
It's important to have a mentor. I don't know where I would be today without my mentor, Bob. He's taught me so much about business, things that I did not learn in college, and that I could only learn through the time that we've spent together doing this together. So I just really feel thankful for that I got to work alongside with him for so many years. I hear him tell people all the time, if you want to go into business, major in accounting because that's what business is. And so in this recently in my career, he's been teaching me, and I've been taking over the bookkeeping.
Right.
And that's such a huge part of it, and I'm really enjoying, getting involved with that, and that's been motivating me.
Yes, accounting is the cash flows, the blood flows through the body, right? If the blood's not flowing, you're in big trouble. So, okay, so let's unpack a little bit about some of the challenges. What do you think one of the hardest things has been on this journey for you? Where did you really kind of hit a crossroads in your own personal journey, professionally? Because everybody watching this, everyone in our audience today has gone through these lessons. What would you say some of the toughest things have been for you to face, and either you've overcome or are in the process of still overcoming today? What would you say those are?
Well, personally, I would say, like looking back, I think in my 30s, I was probably juggling. I was juggling work, life
balance,
and me.
Yes.
Those three things. And then now in my 40s, I feel like I've figured out a way to more balance and find balance in those three areas of my life. But as far as business challenges, I think that moving was pretty difficult, and expanding
yes.
is difficult, but worth it.
Yes.
And I think that I would say the moving and letting people know that we're here and what we do. Our name is Faulkner's Ranch, but we're not at all a ranch like the Benjamin Ranch used to be, a working horse boarding, training, rodeo kind of facility.
Right.
I like to think of Faulkner's Ranch as a boutique ranch. So my father always said, with his customers in the very beginning at the Benjamin Ranch, they want to see the horses, but they don't want to smell them, and they don't want to step in it. And so just keeping a very, having the modern conveniences. It was pretty cool what they did with those old historic barns over there at the Benjamin Ranch. They took the horses out and they put in air conditioning and heating and indoor plumbing. And so that in an event space, in a barn event space back then was really something.
Wow.
So
you didn't start as a boutique, though, right? Did that kind of evolve, or did you position yourself as that?
I think it just happened. As far as we named the place Faulkner's Ranch, and when you walk around, we do have a Western theme about us, but you don't have to have a Western themed event. We do have a petting farm. We do have quite the herd of animals.
Okay.
But nothing like a real working ranch would have.
Okay. So if you don't mind, you don't have to give away the trade secrets. Let's pop the hood a little bit. So tell us your process of planning for expansion. How did you know you needed to do it? What was kind of, briefly, as best you can, kind of spell out a little bit. What was the process you went through with mentors to kind of walk through that? Because perhaps there's people watching this right now that are in that growth. They're juggling everything. They're the chief bottle washer. They're doing everything, wearing all the hats, and the family's like, honey, when are you gonna come back home, and all those things. And then it's time to make a plan and make a leap. You've even talked about that in the green room, about taking a risk and going to that next step. So what's some best practices for other business owners to consider, because you're there, you're on the other side of it now. What would you suggest?
Oh, goodness. Well, starting with the Faulkner's Ranch expansion and the building of that.
Wherever you want to go, absolutely. This is the process, yeah.
When we bought the place, it was a pasture.
Huh.
And then we built a building.
Okay.
And then we do every year review, what do we want to add? What do we want to expand? And then we plan for it and we budget for it. One of our biggest, after we built the venue itself and started to get established, that's when we built a commercial kitchen in 2015.
Okay.
So going through that whole process was very eye-opening for me, as far as working through the city and the permits and the codes,
certifications and the codes,
certifications and all of that, and so.
And it never goes as planned, right?
You should be flexible.
Right.
In every project.
Right.
You should be very, very flexible. But overall, I would say we ended up with what we started planning for as far as our commercial kitchen goes. And I think that was probably one of the biggest milestones for Faulkner's Ranch is when we built the commercial kitchen and started smoking all of our own meats on site and preparing all of our own sides fresh and then rolling them out the door onto the buffet lines and catering and so forth. But that did take a lot of planning, and we knew when we established at Faulkner's Ranch that someday we wanted to get there. So we just had to be patient, and everything takes time and money.
Right.
So.
Right. So what was the hardest part of that process? Was it the financing? Was it the dealing with all the logistics of the different things coming up? Was it?
Yes.
Yes, and amen.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So now you have this. So tell a little bit about the ranch now. Some of the services that you provide. Very interesting. Share some of the corporate events you have. Some of the services you provide on site. Just share a little bit so the audience has an idea of exactly what your venue is and what it's about.
Okay. So, well, we've touched a little bit about the pumpkin season, and it is just a beast all of it itself.
Right.
It's 30 days that we open to the general public from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day.
Okay.
And families can come out and they pay an admission to enjoy our family play area. And a hayride is included in that, a petting farm, and over 25 interactive activities for families to play together. On the weekends during pumpkin season, every weekend is a different theme. And so we'll have entertainers and to correspond with that theme, and discounts and promotions to deal with that theme. So that's pumpkin season. We're also doing school field trips during that time, welcoming thousands of school children from all over the area to come out and pick their pumpkins and learn about how they grow. And then we're still doing corporate events during that time. We have 3 packages for corporations that we offer during pumpkin season only.
Okay.
One's a barbecue banquet barn package where it includes their admission for their guest and then the private meal in our banquet barn.
Okay.
One's an after-hours event, so it includes admission from 4 to 6, then we close to the general public, and then their corporation can stay on for an after party where we'll feed them and entertain them after hours.
Right.
So that's pumpkin season. Then we go into, and just last year we kind of discovered a new bracket in November called Fall-a-Day parties. So it was fun. We had a few companies that would come out, and it's not quite pumpkin-y, but it's not quite Christmassy. It's just Fall-a-Day, and so they had a great time. But then December we really go into our holiday party season, and so companies, and they're smaller companies that have holiday parties. We can seat up to 200 inside that banquet barn. But what's nice is it includes, the venue, complete setup and cleanup. Food, beverages, and then entertainment too.
Okay. So as we were talking, it was interesting, and having interviewed a number of entrepreneurs over the times that we've done this forum, what I find very interesting, the companies that are growing and expanding, they start with one passion and niche, and it's usually what you really love to do. And when we were talking earlier, you said you love to have fun, right? And you have a heart for hospitality.
Yeah.
Those were kind of the building blocks right there, and you just welcome people like they belonged, and it was family oriented because that's who you are, clearly. And then from there you dig really deep, that foundation. You go very deep into the ground, and you've got that staple system, product, service, and then what starts to happen is then you start to dig other holes and you start to go deeper in that. And that's what's happening right now, is that you're adding on and you're growing and you're expanding, but it's all centered around that, who you are as a person, who your family are as a family, and that just continues to just grow, and people are welcome. So I appreciate hearing the uniqueness of your story with that. It's just awesome, and from a perspective of starting from Grandma and Grandpa was the Western wear and just provide. So talk a little bit, so transition a little bit into the some of the hats you're wearing now, but also the customer service piece, because that's one of the things we wanted to hear more about from you and extract from you. What's your secret to customer service? What's some of the things that you have picked up either your natural or what you've cultivated, something that's probably came very natural for you, but you become an expert at it. So share a little more about that.
So we have 6 different customers.
Okay. Oh boy.
Really, and it took a lot of looking at each business segment.
Okay.
We haven't even touched on. So we said pumpkin patch. That customer is usually a grandparent or a parent or a school teacher. The customer for the Christmas office party is usually the office manager.
Right.
The customer for the company picnic, it's a much larger corporation. She or he is usually either in marketing or HR, or some companies have their own event planners. But for example, customer service for our company picnic planners, it's almost anticipating what they're going to need to get their job done. So they've been assigned the task to plan the annual company picnic.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, they already have a real job and responsibilities that go along with that. But now they're tasked with finding a venue and inviting their folks and finding the food and making sure there's entertainment for everyone and that nobody gets sick or injured, or there's so many things that can go wrong. So we really took a look at who is our ideal client and what do they need.
Right.
And so it's just simple things like we created a PDF that they could send out to their guests that it's called the Faulkner's Ranch 411, and it says what to bring to the company picnic, what not to bring, how to prepare.
Right.
So that's really handy for them. We have a checklist before they book, even if they can use this checklist for any venue that they're looking at, it would apply. These are important things to look for.
Right.
Or we even provide them with, once they've booked, a save the date or a picnic promotional flyer that they can print out and hang in their warehouse to help attendance and to get the word out about the company picnic. So providing tools, anticipating those tools and things that they will need, so that when they come to buy your services, you've already got it. You've got the next step and what they'll need there.
So it's a systematic approach. You have laid out the track for them, and you're educating them and training them every step of the way, kind of taking them, but you've systematized it.
Yes.
Correct? And you put in PDFs, or do you have any kind of videos, or is it just pretty much emails and click this, open that, and here's what your next step is, and you just take them by the hand? That's amazing.
It's making them the hero.
Sure.
At the end of the day, we're behind the scenes doing all the work, but they've planned this awesome company picnic, and we want them to receive the accolades at the end. There's
the secret sauce right there. Make them look good.
Yes.
Right?
Make them look good.
That's right. Okay. So now you're also into marketing. You have a bug for marketing and creativity. She love it. She's like, I love it. That's awesome. So, okay. So then, how does that passion play out with, is it like you love analyzing, like you were talking about the demographics and the psychographics of the different customer bases? Is that the funnest part of what you do?
It's what I've had to do.
Yeah.
Having 6 different, business segments within the one. Like, we haven't even talked about our children's pony parties yet.
Oh boy.
So every Saturday.
You are not a one-trick pony with this.
No, we're not. We have a really, really adorable children's pony party package, and it's pretty nostalgic feeling because it's Western themed, it's cowboys and cowgirls, and it's just adorable. And so the client there is the mom. Right. And she's coming to us. She doesn't want to have to clean her home. She doesn't want to have to facilitate games. She wants to make sure everyone has a really good time. But we had to really look at her to figure out what to provide for her to make her party a success. Right. And to make it the best party out of all the parties of all the kindergarten classes. Right. So anyway, it really did take me sitting down, and I use a marketing consultant, and our first approach was called duct tape marketing. Okay. And that's John Jant's great program. Yes. And that's really, in my early stages at Faulkner's, what we were doing was duct taping the whole thing, putting together packages, finding out who our ideal clients are, where they're hanging out, and how to get them this information. Right. And that was really eye-opening. We even named our ideal picnic clients and continue to call them that same name today, and think about them all the time. They're fictional characters, but they're not. But
right.
if that makes sense.
No, it does. So here's what I'm hearing. I love how you have that analysis frame of mind to just sit back and be able to see the landscape, how to best serve them. And then when it happens, the hospitality part of you just sits back and just goes, huh, as the activity happens all around you, and you can just be, your cup can be filled from that. An expression my wife likes to be, it's very cup filling for
yes.
you. But as we know, there's other parts of the business. There's operations, there's business development, there's accounting,
yes.
there's a whole bunch of stuff, right? So, and of course, winning the game, it's a team sport.
Oh yeah.
Business. So you just said you just hired a salesperson, just recently, a sales director.
Well, having a person in sales, this will be 5 years now.
Okay.
I used to do all the sales, all the marketing.
That's right. Okay.
And so having somebody to help me with that has allowed me to take more of a operations approach. In small business, as you all know, everyone wears all the hats.
Right.
And so we looked around and we saw, oh, our salesperson is spending a lot of time hiring and staffing these events that she's selling. Huge stress on that, and
right.
I would just prefer that person focuses on selling the events. So I'm trying, this is new, to take that off of her plate.
You're trying to give away the hats.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
I'm actually going to put this on as we're...
oh, thanks.
Yeah, no, this is great.
Yeah, so I started doing more of that kind of work.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to work out all right.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
And then setting up and cleaning up for events.
Yeah.
I'm out there in the venue with assistants, setting up tables and chairs and guiding the crews to do all of that as well. So you do have to be everywhere. I have a list, and on the list are things that I know I need to touch once every day.
Okay.
So one of them is duct taping.
Yes.
One of them is operations. One of them is marketing. So
That's
making
awesome.
sure you just spend a little bit of time each day doing some of those things.
How are we doing so far?
We're doing good.
We're almost there. You're doing a great job.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay. So as we're heading for the home stretch, and I appreciate so your leadership, it's your passion. It really shines through, and from that, the leadership sets the culture. And what you're doing now is you're in a growth stage. You're learning and putting in different pieces, giving you different hats. So you don't have to wear all of them, right? So like
Yep.
every good successful entrepreneur, it's about leading and delegating and being able to help and make those systems as efficient as possible,
Yeah.
so that you can go ahead and focus on the biggest thing, which is growing the business.
Right.
That's the most important role, right? Okay, so now we're heading into the future. We're heading into the West, going pioneering and breaking new ground. What does that look like for you?
Oh,
you know,
boy.
as next 5 years, next 3 to 5 years, what does life look like for you in this?
Well, having spent
adventure?
10 years at our current location, I now know 10 years can go by like that.
Sure.
And so, we just purchased 15 acres and plan to expand. It abuts our property, so that's very nice. We have a list a mile long of different ideas that we have for that property and ways to incorporate it
Sure.
into our business now. But again, it's going to take some time and planning.
Yes.
And money.
Back to the planning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in 5 years, I think we'll still be doing what we do. I think people always get married. They always celebrate birthdays.
This is true.
And I don't see the company events going away.
Okay.
Kansas City is an awesome place to hold company events because we have so many entrepreneurs that start businesses and value that culture. And our events are ways for them to cultivate that culture.
Right.
And so I don't see those going away. Sometimes I worry about, digital, how everything's digital and not social anymore. So I wonder what that will look like with more people communicating via text and email and not face-to-face, and how that will translate into social settings like events and parties. But for the most part, I think people will still get together and we'll be having parties.
Well, perhaps the next generation sitting in our audience today may have a couple ideas about that, about how to bring that to the fore in helping carry on the family business and family tradition.
Yep.
And so with that, this has been a lot of fun today. I enjoyed hearing your story and hearing your journey. And so as we're winding down here, what would you say the most important thing is for an entrepreneur? And if you were to pick a couple things we've touched on, say what would be the number one thing they should start with if someone's struggling right now or kind of wanting to get where you folks are right now? What would you say that would be? Kind of like parting words of wisdom, maybe for perhaps your son who's sitting in the audience today. He wanted to start this thing. What's the first thing he needs to start doing?
Well, I go back to the mentor. I mean, having somebody by your side that has been there, done this, can stay calm, stay the course, see ahead, plan for the future, all of those things. I think having a mentor for any person wanting to go into business is huge.
Yes.
That's my biggest one.
Well, there you have it. I mean, enough said right there. Christine Loneman, thank you so much. Round of applause for Christine. Fantastic. Wonderful time. And with that, we will be right back.